It's crazy to think that yellow has one of the biggest impacts in Houseki no Kuni compared to how little screen time they actually have. Outside of the chapter 12, which is named after them, yellow remains in the background and is swept along the actions of our story until the climactic chapter 79, where they have their fall. Their character profiles for each volume was something that I hyperfixated during last month's video. If you haven't checked it out, it'll be in the top right. And coupled with the insane amount of fan art that I've been seeing for yellow on Twitter is what created this particular video. Now, let's begin. The anime actually includes yellow a lot more than I remembered compared to the manga. Granted, a lot of these shots will just be of yellow in the background, but that's okay since each of these gems are used by Ichikawa to create a parallel to Phos, a parallel to other gems, and a parallel to society in general. A lot of readers may think that outside of Phos and a few others like Daya or Cinnabar, that these gems are just extra space for the cast, but I hope that these videos shine some extra light into the web of intricacy that she has created for us. Yellow's design is simple yet effective. From their restful eyes that look like they're ready to nod off at any moment, to their half smile that shows just a hint of pain underneath the hardness of 10. Yup, yellow, I forget all the time because, we abbreviate yellow diamond as just yellow, but they're in the same class as Daya and Bort, and is supposed to be the fastest of the gems as we see in episode 6 of the anime, that their running forms this kind of trail of lightning as they look for young Phos who just acquired new legs. It works well with the rain that we hadn't really seen before this point in the anime, but why does this imagery in general fit perfectly with their character? As someone who has lost almost as many partners as Phos during the stretch of the story, but across 3,000 years of their existence, Yellow's natural reaction in a flight or fight situation is to run. To run away towards someone stronger to take care of the situation, like Kongo-sensei. Their guilt of loss eats away at their mood every day. And after millennium and millennium, they become numb from that pain, hence their behavior and attitude throughout our story. Of course, this leads to a lot of parallels to our young 300-year-old Phos. The elder Yellow has 10 times the length of pain and suffering, longing for the old partners that they couldn't save, and wanting to lighten the responsibility as each new gem that they are paired with disappears from their life. We've learned in our story that the inclusions don't actually keep every single detail, or if they do, the older memories get buried. So gems resort to journals, reports, and diaries to catalog that information, just like how Rustil pulls up a notebook about the last time Phos was in the ocean. Yellow's line in chapter 12, while treating Zekrom's broken body, "I can't even remember what we're fighting for anymore," stung the first time I read it and stings even more now with this type of context that we have for their character. It's not hard to empathize that Yellow doesn't use this kind of coping mechanisms for these reports and journals. They don't want to remember the pain that they've caused, and they don't want to keep living like it. And their entire personality is tied to that. They don't want to remember and they want to move forward, but they're always running back to security some way or the other. We also see other gems tackle this mentality that Yellow says, that Yellow doesn't want to remember what they're fighting for anymore, while other gems like Alec uses the hate for Lunarians to never forget, or Rustil uses the variations of gem pieces as a way to get Pad back, or Bort's rustiness from not fighting for centuries when Daya left for the moon. But Yellow's statement here is extremely striking because it's one of the first signs of mental cracks that we see in these immortal beings. So let's talk more about chapter 12 because of how well it sets up these emotional scars of our gems through Yellow and how it forms a strong parallel to our protagonist. Yellow is seen in an encounter with the Lunarians as we open up the chapter, but with their back fully turned away from this menacing threat. And the moment they see Kongo, they ease up on their escape because their flight mechanism has been met with the image of that safety in the form of their teacher. This leads to a careless arrow that comes for Yellow's head, which Zekrom takes themselves to keep their partner safe. Which is interesting because of the parallels to Phos, right? Especially when Phos, with the gold, they have this new type of ability with the gold arms, or the, not just gold, but the alloy arms, and they get a little careless and let these arrows come at them, and Kongo makes a similar comment in that case as well. Yellow is also very considerate of the sleepy Rustil and doesn't even ask for help while patching up a beheaded Zekrom. And is beheaded Zekrom a foreshadowing for Phos this early on within the first 15 chapters? It's kind of crazy. And it also doubles as hinting to the audience that Yellow has been around enough to do these repairs on their own, compared to what we've seen earlier in the story where Rustil handles it heavily. The idea of hibernation is appealing to them because then they don't have to think about anything or sit idly with their thoughts for an extended period of time like they do right now. Similar to how Phos is usually the first to sleep during winter and last to wake up in spring. They're trying to delay the inevitable. They don't want to think about their uselessness as much as possible. Then we have the running scene with Phos. Yellow at the moment with their shocked face when they realize that they aren't the best at running away from their problems anymore, because we have this surprising new Phos with new legs. And the chapter comes full circle as Phos reminds not only Sensei about the gem's desire, but also Yellow, that all the gems are only fighting just for Kongo's safety. All that pain and regret and hurt that they face during their eternal life is for the sake of their master, the one who created the chance for them to live the way that they do nowadays, Kongo. That realization from their young and hopeful gem, Phos, was enough to cause Yellow to expend energy and burst into laughter because they were actually happy to finally reinvigorate the desire that they always had. This is the pros and cons for the way that Yellow handles their memories, right? They want to forget the bad times, but forcing to forget that will also forget the good times and the motivations and goals and passions. The next time we see some Yellow action is, of course, in Volume 5, which is tied to the rain that's already associated with our gem and those yellow butterflies that are present. As someone who gets to take these long gaps between their conscious self due to how they're structured, like Pad, Yellow is clearly jealous of the fact that Pad doesn't have to think during these slumbers. Whether it's the excitement of another one that is close to their age or just happy to see an old friend, that feeling of joy fades quicker than the trauma they try to avoid on a daily basis comes back. This compounded with the hole they feel already when Bort and Zekrom start working well together. A touch of jealousy, but also relief that they don't have to lose anyone else. The funny part is Yellow is now in the same position as Phos after losing their historian job. Without a role to play anymore, they lazily pass their time on top of a plethora of knowledge that Alex has. And it's honestly really funny to me that Yellow is the one that's I completely forgot that Yellow was the special guest lecturer on Lunarians, solely for the fact that they were just the eldest. But with that funny moment, we can see the context behind it, right? Yellow doesn't have anything else really holding them to Earth, because they don't have the fear of losing a partner, because they don't even have a partner anymore. That dichotomy between wanting to forget something but holding on to the same memory is a painful one. On one hand, Yellow wants to just apologize for their shortcomings to their partners that they've lost, Ruby, Sapphire, Green Diamond, and Pink Topaz, but also forget the thought of losing them because it is their sole fault. How does one rectify this survivor's guilt, especially if they're immortal? Over time, these feelings might dull out a little, but they're never gone and continue to eat away at your conscious thought. Yellow tries to go about this in a somewhat positive way, by forgetting just all memories as much as possible and trying to really reason with other gems and talk things out. Even after being separated from Earth, Yellow still has a strong attachment to Kongo because of everything that we've seen in Yellow's story so far. They are highly reliant on a safety net, and Kongo is the perfect model to project their insecurity. But Yellow never wants to fight their own gems, because what is the point in that? Yellow is the only one that actually tries to talk things out, while the sides sadly are already formed, the Moon Gems and the Earth Gems. Of course, we also have Euclid kind of talking things out, but I'll discuss them in their own separate video and how it's completely different from how Yellow tries to do it. Yellow has attachment to everyone and wants the family to stay together, but doesn't have the power to actually do anything. Their hesitation once again causes irreversible pain to those that they care about, and blames themselves for the damage that Cinnabar caused to Bort, to Pad, and the others during that fight. This, compounded by the time in a foreign environment, is what leads to the brutal page-turner from chapter 79 to 80. And yep, when I read these two chapters back to back, I had a double take. Who was that getting on the sheets? Was that on Earth or the moon? Oh, is that some gem waving and it looks like the moon architecture? So then we get to the beginning of chapter 80. The jump, the name drop confirming that it's Yellow, and then the aftermath. This is the second most shocking action that I will always remember happening to one of our side gems that isn't Fos. This and Karen Gorm getting rid of the stuff in their eyes. It's so shocking, and it hurts my heart every time I get to these kinds of pages. And I love how Ichikawa uses both of these little crumbs of foreshadowing from their talk with Pad, who after the moon turns into someone they don't even know. Who after going back to Earth to reason and come together fails miserably. Who after 200 years of thinking way too hard about their faults in an uncomfortable and unfamiliar room causes our poor Yellow to fully break. And these hints we get are even in the character introductions of each volume. It starts out with Beloved and it just turns into just Eldest. And these details, these hobbies, these memories, these pains, slowly but surely, Yellow tries to push him away so that they don't have to be hurt anymore. And it's interesting how this parallels with the details that Lapis is so proud of. Well, maybe not that they're proud of, but how Lapis's brain functions. And just how both ends of the spectrum, highly detailed and focused and oriented like Lapis, versus not really absent-minded, but wanting to forget all the details and memories. They both don't make a happy gem or a happy person. And in this case, even with the lack of details, it still causes the mental insanity of Yellow to fall apart. I'm happy that they can actually find some resolution to their dissonance that they felt. That cold, immortal body was nothing but a burden on them now. And as new Lunarians in the chapter 95, hopefully they'll feel liberated with all their old partners back with them together. A happy family without our protagonist up in the moon. Will this happiness that Yellow most certainly feels last a full 10,000 years? Probably not, but let's just forget about how long it will take for that happy memory to disappear. That's all for the video. I know I've been joking about our author taking their sweet time before a chapter 96 happens, but at the end of the day, as long as Ichikawa is healthy and happy, I am perfectly fine waiting for eternity before she resumes chapters. I hope that these videos each month that land on what is supposed to be a usual release schedule can fill a little bit of the hole that is left in all our hearts and serve as a tie-over until we resume serialization. Until then, I'll see you all on the next 25th. Peace.